Hello, it's Amy with Paper Moon Journals, and today I have a really cool project to share with you. I thought I would show you how to get the most from an ephemera kit, and the one that we'll be using today is the one from my collaboration with Whimsy Craft Digitals. We'll be using the Grungy Grimoire digital kit to make this journal. Using a kit like this to make a journal is just one way to get more out of it. We'll also make some pop-up things, pockets. We'll use the ephemera as ephemera in our journal and have all kinds of fun. In the first half, we will go ahead and construct the hardboard cover in a 5x6 size with a 2-inch spine and make it 3 signatures and a total of 104 pages if you make it like I did. Let me show you the tools and materials that we'll need and we can get started. Here are some of the tools and supplies that we'll need. I use these 2 different sizes of double-sided tape and my bookbinding kit, the all wax linen thread and needle. You can actually just get by with a heavy-duty needle if you have some pliers, and you could use embroidery thread, ribbon, anything that will fit through the eye of your needle. I have art glitter glue and glue stick that I know I'll be using. Here's the big bottle that I use to fill the smaller dispenser. You'll need a scissors, ruler, and a bone folding tool is optional. And then I also ended up using my cropadile eyelet setting tool, some eyelets, some ink, and an ink blending tool that I ran and got during the filming. I have these tea stain papers that I've already prepared, and they're dyed a purple color. I was trying to show you compared to that white envelope. I'm not sure you can see. They're actually really pretty lavender color for tea stain. And then here's the digital papers I printed on 24-pound color print paper, and I printed tea stain paper on the back of these 3 sides. I used something from Sam Poole. Also, my sheet music kit would have worked. You could have backed one with sheet music. There's also some blank tea stain pages and some that are all words, the covers, things like that. So that would work. And I do go back and print out these images of the witches in their full size on paper as well. And then I have a bunch of stuff printed on card. So all of this is printed on card. Why don't we get out some black scrapbooking paper and chipboard and get ready to construct the cover. We'll need half of a sheet of 12 by 12 chipboard, heavy duty chipboard. And I grabbed 6 sheets of tea stained paper that I cut in half. Let's move this stuff out of the way. So with the 12 by 12, I cut it down to be a 9 by 12 piece. I cut 2 sheets down to be 9 by 12 and then cut one of them in half for the cardstock. And then for the chipboard, the 12-inch piece, it's 6-inch by 12-inch, and you cut 2 5-inch pieces. You're left with a 2-inch spine. And it'll go in the middle of those 2 when we glue it to the scrapbooking paper. If you haven't tried this, I really hope you will. If it looks hard, it's really not. If you're worried that if you make a mistake, it'll be ruined, it won't. I'll go over a couple of the things that could go wrong and tell you what, like the worst cases. If we glue the paper together kind of crooked, no big deal. We trim the paper off. If we glue the chipboard onto the cardstock crooked, we trim it so that it doesn't look crooked, right? No big deal. If we get the chipboard too close together when we're gluing it, that's a little bit of the worst thing, but still not unfixable. If you get the chipboard too close together when you go to bend the cover, it might split and break the paper and make a crack in the paper. Then you just use another scrap of paper to make a band-aid and cover that up. It's happened to me before where I get the things a little too close and that happens. So there's really not too much that can go wrong here. I've made quite a few of these, and I'm not great at everything at the first try, and I haven't had a problem. Again, I've made some mistakes. I've had the paper split because I got it a little too close together. I've also laid it on the background paper crooked, but everything's all covered up once we're done wrapping it, and no one would ever know a lot of the things that seem like mistakes that you make, once it's all done and decorated, you won't even see it and you'll never know. So I took the first piece of chipboard. We want them to be like 2 thicknesses of chipboard away. You can use that to help you gauge it if you want. Again, you want to err on the side of a little too far apart. If you do get these pieces, you want about 1/4 of an inch apart. If you get them too far apart, then your cover's a little floppy, which if you fill it full of enough paper, you won't notice that either. So again, no really harm done. Or if you've had a cover that was kind of floppy and you couldn't figure it out, that's it. Your chipboard was maybe just a little bit too far apart here. Then I just press it down with my bone folder, my bone folding tool. You can see glue squished out, so it helps spread the glue around. And this is actually slightly longer than what we needed. So I just trim about 2 inches off the long end after I glue it down. Then I just kind of cut it so that it's centered into the paper. And if I'd got it on there crooked, I'd just do more trimming. You just fold that so that it meets the chipboard. And then fold up the sides so that we can have it leave score marks so that we know how to cut the corners out. We'll want to cut the corners out to avoid bulk there. Here it is. So we'll want to cut just on the outside edges of those fold lines that were created. Not getting too close to the chipboard. But this overlaps pretty nicely, and so it should cover well. After I cut out the 4 corners, I like to use my double-sided tape on the long sides. I like to use double-sided tape on this long side because that paper needs to be worked into the groove, and then there will be other paper added on top of that worked into the groove. I cut a bunch of triangles just in case I cut the corners too small. I don't end up needing them, but it was just to show you out of the scraps that are left, you can just cut tiny little triangle pieces. And if you end up with any chipboard showing, you can use those tiny little triangles to do that. What I'll end up using for these, because I won't need them for this project, is they'll also make nice little photo corners, where if you just glue those down in an L shape, you can tuck a picture under that. So if I can keep track of those, I can use them as photo corners. I'm going to use my 2-inch double-sided tape so that it overlaps. But before I do that, I want to make sure that the grooves have double-sided tape in it. This is a tip from Debbie at Project 39 mini albums. I noticed she did this on her mini albums, and I love the idea of that extra sticky in here in the crack when we work all the paper together. So we want to get that in there first, because after we fold up the sides, it'll block that off. You could use glue, but you would want to be patient. You would want to carefully work it in and be patient and let it dry and set and cure. The way I have it done, I can just move from step to step without waiting. I'm doing this here in real time with you. I haven't sped it up like I normally like to do. When I'm watching during editing, I feel like it's dragging and I want to speed everything up. But I've heard that I have some beginners that wanted some tutorials that are nice and slow, step by step. Thank you for the request. So I'm going to make a nice slow, try not to speed anything up here. Then burnish that double-sided tape down with my bone folding tool. That's an optional tool. You can use the back of your scissors. I frequently forget my bone folding tool, and I've used a variety of things. A square-shaped highlighter. The bottom of the glue stick works pretty good. And then rotate it around and do the other side. And then the short ends are less important. So I just use glue or a couple thin strips of double-sided tape, depending on my mood, to flap that over. Because that's not going to be worked into the crease or anything. I'm not too concerned about it. This time I ran a bead of glue along the edge of the chipboard. And then just some excess. This will be glued under a sheet of paper so that won't be flapping at all, that edge. And do the same thing again. My glue's coming out pretty freely here, so I'm getting at least as much as I want and a little more. Let me just squeeze that out. This is how my bone folder gets so sticky and dirty looking as I end up getting glue on it. But I won't stop and clean it at least until I'm done with this. So I also have made a 4-inch by 5.5-inch piece that we're going to use to cover the spine. I just use my ruler as a straight edge to tear against here. And since this is 4 inches wide, 2 pieces perfectly fits. You could also just use more strips. If you were patient, again, you could use glue, carefully work it into the creases, let it set before you tried to bend or fold anything. I'm impatient. This isn't, it's not that I don't like this part, but this part is not the fun part. Like, the fun part is once this is done and we start cutting and decorating the cover and sewing in the pages and decorating the pages. Like, this is the work that comes before the fun. It's not too much work, and I've gotten where I can whip these out pretty fast. I filmed this video, it was 38 minutes of footage. And I did ink some pages off camera. Must have taken 15 or 20 minutes to round all the corners and ink the page edges. But when we're done with this part 1, the cover will be done and decorated, and the pages will be sewn in and ready to decorate. So it'll be in a good place. It'll have the tie, the closure. You could actually just stop at the end of this video, do nothing else but enjoy your beautiful journal. Or if you just like to see how I continue on, I'll continue on, adding pockets, decorating it. I know I had a waterfall element in the original one. We'll kind of refer back to the sample one that I made and then loosely copy that. So here's the pages. And then I've cut those apart. I cut out the border and then just cut them across the middle so that now they make little journal pages. Isn't that nifty? So I plan on making 3 signatures, so I just start by making 3 stacks of little folded papers. And then I'll go from tea-stained paper to digital paper and so forth. But for demonstration purposes, I just wanted to get a couple of each in the stack and then just show how every other page. But here's a place where you could really add some versatility, where I have only tea-stained papers. Instead, you could have sketch paper, you could have lined notebook paper, you could have scrapbooking paper that was patterned, Halloween patterned. You could use other digital papers like this actual sheet music. This is a place where you can follow along and do the same thing, but you'll end up with something totally different and really personalize it to what you have in your stash. And I've tried to keep this down so that we're just using a few digitals. Normally I use, I don't know, a dozen or more digitals in my projects. But for this project, we'll use this digital here as our main digital, and that will be enough. And then on top of that, just to add a little bit of variety, I'll add 2 more digital files, not including what I printed on the back. So here's the way mine came out. And if you're new and haven't done this a lot of times, you'll want to paper clip these together really well. So where normally I'm pretty haphazard about it now, I'm going to work like a beginner. So I'm going to put 3 paper clips on here. And you don't want them too close to the middle, because when we're sewing through the middle, sometimes the needle will catch the paper clip. If you want, you can use a ruler to help you really nest those papers and to get the folds nested together. So each of these groups of paper is called a signature. So I'm going to get each of these 3 signatures nested together and clipped with 2 at the top, 1 at the bottom. Just kind of helps me when I'm looking at the inside, which has no picture, to see what's right side up. And the 3rd one. The paper clips on there. And then I think we're ready for our cover. Let's make some room here. I've got stuff everywhere. Okay, so now that we have the cover out, I want that seam between the paper on the back. So I just held it up like the cover's going to be so I could tell what was the front and the back. And then this is 6 inches. So I just move it about a 1/4 inch from the edge of the fold there. And I mark it at 1 inch, 3 inch, and 5 inches. I've marked a little indentation with the needle. And I go approximately the same distance from the crease on the other side. And then mark the 1, 3, and 5 inches. And then I try to look at what's about equidistance between the two. It doesn't bother me if it's not perfectly in between, but if it bothers you, measure this out, make sure it's right. In the past, I used to make templates, but I would make a mistake and have the template slip, or I've just found that for me, this is simpler, not to keep track of a template or use the template. So now that I've marked my little indentations, I'm not sure if you can see those, but I can see them, then I'll go ahead and punch a hole. The distance between two of the signatures, all of the signatures, is not equal, but I already told you that doesn't bother me at all. And once the signatures are all filled up with pockets and ephemera and things, we probably won't even notice that they weren't evenly spaced. We'll also be covering up the stitching on the spine and decorating that, so we won't even see the stitches if they go in crooked. Like, that was one of the things I know when I made these before, when I was first starting out, that my rows wouldn't be even. One might be taller than another. The distance between them wouldn't be even. And it really just doesn't matter. It will still go together. So I want to make sure that I have the cover the way that the pages will be upright before I punch the hole. And I just take one of the signatures and look, I can kind of see over the top of the paper. And if my needle comes out over the hole, I know I have guessed correctly. And I do the same thing, just kind of looking, then over the top, and then do the same thing with the third hole. It's funny because I start with the center, the bottom, and then the top, as if I'm, it's the same order I sew in the signature. So now that we have this one punched, we can just nest the other one behind it and punch back through the holes again. And it'll go out through the unpunched one that's nested behind it. So the signature in front had already had holes, and then the one behind didn't. And the holes in the one in front are a guide now. So I do the same thing with the second signature in front of the third one, using the holes in the second signature as a guide. Make sure you don't punch into your finger with that awl. Even after punching through so many, 300 journals now maybe, you'd think mine would be dull, but ouch, it really, really hurts if you accidentally stab that into your finger. I've done it a couple times, and I, of course, regret it intensely every time. So here's my needle. It's the one that came with my bookbinding kit way back when. I have to buy more wax linen thread every year. Probably I think it's twice a year. I buy another packet of wax linen thread. Again, you can use lace. I've used sari silk ribbon. You can use embroidery thread. You could use yarn, string. Again, if it fits through the eye of your needle, as long as you've punched a big enough hole, it will fit through there. So we're going to sew in all 3 signatures. We're doing the 3-hole pamphlet stitch here. I've yammered on and done a terrible job of explaining what I'm doing in the background, but we'll be doing another one. So I will carefully explain that 2 more times with the 2 signatures. We're at the home stretch here. We went out through the bottom hole. We come in through the center hole again, the second time through the center hole. And then pull the needle off the thread. Every signature, I punch the needle through the existing thread when I go through the center hole the second time, and I just untangle it so that it's not going through. And then I pull that center cord to get the thread taut, and then it's still kind of tangled. So just Pull it loose. And then now I can get it taut. And I want the ends of our thread to reach the page edge. That's about the right length to have enough room. And then I look everywhere to make sure there's no loops of thread caught on anything that I can't see, so that the signature will be nice and tight. That's happened to me before. I just cut it loose and sew it in again. It's easier than sewing in a button, I think. I just tie a double knot and then do a bow. So if the bow comes undone, it's no big deal. We have the double knot, so this isn't going anywhere. There are others, different kind of stitches that you can use to sew in the journals. I started using a 5-hole stitch, and I found it just took a lot of extra time. I didn't feel like they needed the extra holes to stay in there sturdy and to stay straight. So we went out through the center hole of the signature, then out through the center hole of the cover, in through the top hole, or once the book was upright, that'll be the top hole, and then end through the top hole of the signature. I caught on the paper clip, so I just slide that out of the way. And don't worry about pulling anything tight until it's all sewn together. They go out through the bottom hole of the signature, out through the bottom hole of the cover. If this sounds complicated, it's not. It like feels so easy when you're doing it. You're thinking, wow, is it really that easy? Yeah, it is. It's really this easy. It's easier than the non-sew binding methods. Like before, when I first started making these, I went to so much time, effort, and trouble to avoid trying to sew in signatures because I thought it would be so hard. And then it's easier. It's actually easier than a lot of the no-sew binding methods. Just a couple minutes here sewing these in, and they'll be in nice and tight and snug, and we can just move on. Keep going. Get my needle threaded again. I'll sew in the third signature so you get another chance to see how this is done. I know I like to see things a couple times. Before I made these, I would watch the video that inspired me a few times over before the time I watched it, where I actually tried to make it with the stuff out. So we went out through the middle hole of the signature, out through the middle hole of the cover, in through the top hole of the cover, in through the top hole of the signature. And then we carry the thread all the way down past the middle hole to the bottom hole. And then out through the bottom hole of the cover. Hi. In through the center hole of the cover. You can see there's that larger gap between the second and third signature. I'm telling you, it doesn't bother me at all. I only point it out so that if you have these things in your project and you want to beat yourself up about it, you'll learn not to. I'm a professional, and it doesn't bother me, so don't let it bother you. Don't beat yourself up, too, by the way. Quit doing that. I just say that because sometimes I do. I have to remind myself not to. My internal dialogue was really a bully for a long time before I noticed that and tried to rein it in. So again, tied a double knot and put it into a bow. Congratulate yourselves for getting this so far. Your cover's constructed, your pages are in and ready to decorate. I think we'll go ahead and decorate the inside, outside of the cover at a closure before we finish this episode. So let me look at some of the things I have printed on card. I like this one with the books and the butterfly. I think these are the two that I'll use to decorate the inside of the cover. Let me pause here, get this cut apart, and come back. Here's a quick look at the inspiration piece, the sample piece that I used. And then, yeah, okay, now I'll go get these cut apart and then I'll come back with everything cut out. Okay, so I reprinted all of these different witch images for the cover. I think it's pages 6, 7, and 8, 7, 8, and 9. This one in the lower right-hand corner is my favorite. She's going to be the cover of this one today. Another thing that I did was I grabbed my graphic 45. Is it an 8x8? It must be an 8x8 pad. And grabbed a sheet of that. I'll tell you what that is in just a second here. I also have my graphic 45 ink in classic black. The other journal, the sample one or the inspiration journal that we're loosely copying, I inked everything with purple. And once they were done and I was comparing the two, I actually liked inking it in purple better. I also had some dark blue out, a midnight blue from Graphic 45. That looked really pretty. I inked some of the ephemera with that. So you don't have to use black or vintage photo, which is also good. My vintage photo was just all used up. I couldn't get anything good out of it. And so I just switched to one of my other inks, to the black ink. Then I have my art glitter brand glue in the glue dispenser. This is printed on 67-pound card. I'll have all the links in the description box to the stuff on Amazon. It will be affiliate links. I think I might be up to 15, 16 cents now. So it's really just for your convenience, the links. Although if you do use them, it'd be great. Eventually it'll add up and I can buy some glue sticks or some glitter. You know, anything's appreciated. I think I have to get up to $10 before they'll... I think they actually issue payment even. So I like inking up all the edges. My paper cutter's kind of dull because I use it to cut chipboard. So it's really important to ink up these edges, especially when you're laying that on top of black. I'm just going to ink all around the edges here. Actually, let me pause the camera and ink all around everything and then come back. I'll glue this down first and then this inside front and back cover, and then I'll get everything inked up and come back with everything all inked up and ready to go. Doesn't that look nice? These papers are so beautiful. This ephemera kit. I usually just use her stuff for ephemera in my journal projects, so everything isn't too same or matchy. I'll buy kits from her separate so that I then use that in other projects. It was really fun to collaborate with her and to have the opportunity to get more out of this kit. So here, let me show you, before I run off and ink them, let me show you what I have. So I have it's 4 3/4 by 5 3/4. 1 3/4 by 4 1/2, and then 2 of those. See, 2 4 3/4 by 5 3/4, and then in black 4 1/2 by 5 1/2. I think I might have changed that to 4 1/4 by 5 1/4. Just I do what I think looks good, so I think I ended up I went with 4 1/4 by 5 1/4. And then the image I cut down to about 4 inches wide by 4 1/2 inches long. And I did already ink around everything when you weren't looking. I inked around all the edges. So we'll just get this glued down. I'm not sure if you saw the name of the paper on that strip there. I also cut a piece of chipboard that's just slightly smaller than the picture. The picture is actually a little bit more than 4 inches wide, and I only cut the chipboard to 4 inches wide. So that makes it easy for the chipboard to hide underneath the picture. And then just burnish that down to get the glue spread evenly between the picture and the chipboard. Then add some glue to the back of the chipboard to glue to the front of the cover. This will raise up the cover. I won't add any more raised embellishments, glitter, or anything else. I won't finish the cover until everything else is done inside. Again, the cover could be done here for you. You don't have to come back and add or change or do anything else. But I won't add any dimensional flowers or flat backs or anything like that until after I've finished the inside. So let's look and see what we want to use for the spine. I think this haunted house is just the thing. So let's cut this down. And the offcut piece will make a great pocket. So after I get this cut down, I think we'll just glue that inside as a pocket so we won't have to keep track of it. That off-cut piece of haunted house will make a cute pocket. So I just trimmed that down. You can see I just guessed the size. Looks like maybe I missed some ink on a couple spots. Just gonna add that. And then get this piece inked up before we put it down. Yeah, I like that. I love this purple. I could probably count on one hand the number of purple journals I've made, even though I've made about 300. Yeah, definitely less than 5 purple ones. Maybe 2, 3? Very few. I love it. I love purple. I think this looks great. I think the main thing is I don't see a lot of digital kits that inspire me, because that's what happens. Is she asked me to collaborate, so I went to her shop and looked for some stuff that I hadn't already bought. And then and saw this purple kit, thought of that purple paper that I wanted to dye or had just dyed. I can't remember which came first. I have a feeling the purple paper might have come first, and then I saw the purple kit, but I can't actually remember. Chicken or the egg. Isn't that cool? Okay, so we got one of the pockets going, and then I'm going to use this top hat image that was paired with the haunted house. Or maybe not. I'll wait and think about what I want to do there. Here's my corner rounder that I'm using currently. I actually picked this one up at Hobby Lobby. It's not the one on my Amazon link. But I'll sit and I'll round all the corners on the top corners, and then I'll round all the corners on the bottom corners. And then after that's done, I'll ink all the page edges. So I just wanted to kind of show you how tedious, how relaxing and fun this is, because it's not intense. It doesn't take a lot of thought. It's very relaxing, although it will take about 20 minutes. So I would wait until I inked all the corners, or cut all the corners before I inked. But I just kind of wanted to show you how I'll go around with the ink blending tool and do every page, front and back. And it doesn't have to be black. You could use finished photo. You could use blue, purple, pick your color. All right, I'll meet you back here with everything inked up and the corners all rounded. Not only that, I brought my cropadile with me, and we can punch a hole in the cover. I'm using the larger hole. I think it's 3/16. There's 2 size holes on this cropadile, and it's made to punch through thick things. So this thick chipboard that's all layered up, it cuts through that no problem. And then I have these eyelets here. I have a bit of a time getting them through the hole. These are generic ones, and I feel like they're a fraction of a hair bigger, and they don't just pop into that hole. It kind of hurts my finger trying to press it down. I'm going to grab my bone folder and see if I can use that to help me force this through the hole. And since I'm voicing over, I know that it does, actually. I can use the force necessary when it's not hurting my finger. So I just use my bone folder, pressing down on it. Can you see what I'm doing? There we go. I think it went in there. And then use the cropadile to really affix it on there. Let's do the other side the same way. So if you have a hard time getting those things in there, it's not just you. When I got the name brand ones, I didn't have this problem. And when I'm putting it in something thicker or thinner, it's fine. I don't have any, it's not very hard to get them in tags, things like that. But in the cover, I have a terrible time trying to get this in the cover. I just persevere. I know I'll get it in there. So I made too many of these to not get that in there. And I have younger people in the house that don't have arthritis. So I always had my college-age daughter do this when she came home. Ultimately, if I couldn't get that in there. My hands just aren't as coordinated with fine motor tasks as they used to be. Okay, so now I've got that through the cover. The eyelet was all the way through the cover there. Then I can crimp it down on there with the eyelet setting tool. You don't have to use this tool. You don't even have to use eyelets or put on a tie closure if you don't want. I have some sari silk here. It's actually 4 feet. There's 2 feet in each strand. I thought I had some footage of me measuring this out, and now I'm suspecting... Am I missing some footage or something? Every once in a while I think I'm filming and I just snap a photo. Here we go. Again, those fine motor skills. It used to be easy to poke things like that through a hole, and now it's not so easy. Then I just put the tail in through the loop made. When I poke the loop through the hole, and then poke both the tails through the loop after it's poked through the hole. I'll do that again in case you haven't seen this before. It's pretty nifty. So just poke the loop through and then tuck the 2 tails through the loop and then pull the tails so that it goes taut. And then we can just tie that into a bow. There it is. Corners rounded, everything inked up. I hope you'll stay around for part 2. Thanks for watching and have a great day.